RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, opinions, or statements of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information on this program is not to be construed as medical or legal advice. An appearance on this show is not necessarily an endorsement, and as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of Occam's Razor. As always, I'm your host, RP. Joining me live in the studio is my good friend and co-host, M3, Mr. Methods himself. We've got a show just chock full of current events for you guys today. Plenty of stuff happening in the world. We are not want for anything to discuss. Do us a favor, don't forget to like and share that broadcast. Gotta help us break through the algorithm. Hello to all of the mods keeping the chat comfy. Real Red Pill Girlfriend, I love you, honey. Leslie, Jojo, Wheezy, Rooks Castle, and Methods. Thank you, baby. All right, guys. Leslie, do me a favor. Sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Well, friends, there's a famous old saying that goes, "May you live in interesting times." And we certainly are. Our world is so sharply divided right now, even our basic American right to free speech is under a heavy attack. In fact, my channel here is being suppressed. I've been shadow banned, and it's because I'm not politically correct. If they want to take it all away, you might wake up one day and find that you can't see my content anymore. Perhaps nobody will, unless you know to look for me. It's a sneaky, underhanded form of censorship, and it's all because certain people don't like what I have to say. Now, since I depend on revenue from the product partners I promote, if no one can find or see my content anymore, then I'm out of business. Goodbye, Red Pill News. I certainly hope that never happens, but these days, anything can go wrong at any time. And that's why I teach self-reliance and emergency preparedness, especially when it comes to your food, water, and other vital necessities. As you know, I fully endorse the products from My Patriot Supply, and the advertising revenue I receive in return helps me pay my bills and enables me to keep bringing you great content like this. But any day now, that might stop. So please prepare in advance. I'd like to make a special request. If you've been planning to buy from My Patriot Supply, but you've been putting it off, now is the time to act while you still can. If you've already purchased what you need, I want to thank you sincerely. But as you can see, for the time being, the future isn't looking much better than what we've just been through. Frankly, it's probably going to get a lot worse leading up to the election. And that's why I urge you to take a moment right now and go to preparewithredpill78.com and make your purchase while you still can. My Patriot Supply is the only source I personally use and trust, and you can too. And right now you can save $100 off a full 4-week supply of delicious, nutritious meals your whole family will love. My Patriot Supply makes it easy to be prepared at all times, and saving $100 off a life-saving 4-week supply of food is too good a chance to pass up. The future is so uncertain, I urge you to go to preparewithredpill78.com and get ready now. Once again, that's preparewithredpill78.com. Do it now, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for sticking around, and thank you to My Patriot Supply for generously supporting my broadcast, and this makes the show possible for you guys. Methods, how are you today?
And I'm doing good. Just enjoying being a now we're called internet demons. So that's another one to add to our add to our badge of honor. But yeah, I'm doing good. I hope everybody in the chat's doing well. And yeah, another show.
You know, speaking of internet demons, or just demons in general, did you happen to hear about the controversy that Jerry and Rebecca Falwell are embroiled in right now?
I sure didn't.
Well, apparently they engaged in an extramarital relationship with their pool boy for about 8 years, and he's going to be leaving Liberty University as a result. It's just another example of people in charge having different rules for themselves and telling you to behave in a certain way. Not that I'm a proponent of whatever their lifestyle was, but I mean, it's just a bad look.
Oh yeah, definitely sounds like. I mean, were they brushing each other's hair and stuff too, or what?
You know, I don't know this. Well, I guess I know some of the specifics, but it's a little spicy. I don't want to get into it. But I mean, they did go into business together. They opened up a hostel that was friendly to the homosexual community. It was odd. It was a strange thing for them to get involved in. But Jerry Falwell Jr. is not the subject of the show today. I think it's unfortunate, but you know, whatever. I think that people should live and set an example based upon the actions that they put forward. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. You know, I mean, the Democrats have one set of rules for themselves. They have a certain way that they want to tell you that you need to act. And then they have blinders when it comes to the people who support them and the actions that they take. There have been so many crazy things happening this week, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that it also happens to be the week of the RNC. You know, methods. When we take a look at the performance of the DNC, the speeches that those people gave, and then the performance of the RNC and the speeches that our side gave. I mean, it is a stark contrast. If I were the Democrats, I too would do anything possible to get all of that good news and that hope and love out of the media coverage by producing an environment that would take over the news cycle.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of expected it, that things would go on during this week and try to, shift away from how bad the DNC was last week. And I mean, we talked about it yesterday on my show, but they won't even release the poll numbers from the DNC. They won't let the media put it out there. So it's not surprising that we have things that are conveniently taking over the airwaves right now when the RNC is knocking it out of the park from what I've seen. Absolutely,
100%. And you're not hearing anything about the poor performance of the DNC, but it's obvious in the voting public, like we are noticing, the people watching are noticing. Now, before we get into that deep dive, we have a special announcement. It is the birthday of a very good friend of the program, somebody who is very valuable within this movement, and that would be Sookie Q. Sookie, I don't know if you are. There you are! She's here in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely want to say here, I know I said it on Twitter, blew up her notifications, but, I just want to say happy birthday to you, Sookie. You have definitely been there for me. Anytime I get frustrated, people think I don't because I stay chill on air. It's because I try to balance my emotions and not bleed it out into the public. And Sookie has definitely helped me through that. She's talked me off the ledge a few times. So shout out to her. Let's put a 17 in the chat for a happy birthday, and let's blow up this chat about her just like we did on Twitter.
That's right. Happy birthday, Sookie. We are glad to have you. Thank you for being a part of this movement. And I saw that Craig Mason's Reasonable Conversation channel is in the chat as well. Craig, good to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Now, so things were already a little bit dicey before the main event that popped off this past week. I mean, we've had ongoing rioting and ongoing looting taking place in major metropolitan cities and, once again, Democrat-controlled areas. You're not seeing it in Republican areas. I mean, and the reason is because they're not going to stand for it. There is a sharp division between Republican and Democrat on one specific area, and that is their willingness to protect their population. It's almost as if the Dems are completely tone deaf when it comes to the things actually affecting their constituents. They have their pet issues, the things that they want to drive home, that they want to scold you about, tell you that you don't deserve the life that you've created for yourself, or the life that you've built. And instead, they want to make you believe that due to historical guilt, you must give all of that up. And you have to kneel before one very specific issue, not God. You don't kneel before God. You kneel before their philosophy, okay? Now, there was a happening that took place in in Kenosha, okay? And that's where all of these riots have been taking place this week. That's where they started, I guess. But there was a young man by the name of Jacob Blake, and the police were called to a domestic violence situation. And when they figured out who was there, it turned out that Mr. Blake had some warrants out for his arrest. So they sent more than a couple of officers to the scene. And when they got there, he resisted them. Of course, after this incident took place, they released selectively chosen segments of the video, only basically the point at which the officers had to fire upon him. But what they left out was him tussling with the officers. They left out him getting into his car and reaching under his seat. Now, if you're in a situation with the police and they're trying to arrest you, and they tell you to stop resisting, and you reach into your car, there's a fairly good chance that you're not reaching for a hot dog, okay? You're not reaching for a bouquet of flowers. You're probably reaching for something that will allow you to fight back. And that's exactly what was happening. Now, he did have a knife, all right? That's what he was reaching for in the car. And for the last 4 days, there have been just a series of horrific events taking place in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, I also want everybody to remember that it just happens to be not all that far away from Milwaukee, where the Democrat National Convention virtually had been held. So it's almost like maybe they went to Wisconsin, they set up shop, they figured out that they needed to have some event occur, and now we've got the event, and it's spilled out into other cities. But with the last 4 days, we've seen just horrific violence taking place there. Businesses burned down. The same stuff that happened in in Minneapolis, the same stuff that happened in Portland, the same stuff that happened in Seattle, and it's just nonstop. The people of these cities are tired of it. They are being forced to live in war zones, essentially. And the Democrats are completely ignorant of their feelings and, what their voters are interested in doing. Nobody wants to live in a crime-ridden area or an area that has been devastated by fires and by looting.
Right. And I was thinking about this, and, we don't know these officers that were there that were called to the scene, but the tensions around that they would be at least hearing about or seeing on TV, like we all are, is that there is a war on the police system itself. I know that there's bad apples everywhere. Everybody here, I imagine, gets that. But tensions are on high alert. He's resisting arrest, walking away, and reaching into his vehicle. He had warrants there. I believe he had a history of fighting with the police, correct?
Yes, he definitely had violent stuff on his record, for sure.
Okay, so you're going to know the record about this person before you go in. Like you said, they had to bring in more police because of that. Yep. And then you're seeing all these things on war on police, and then you get there, and he's resisting arrest and walking away. And I mean, I understand that it does look sketchy, especially how they clipped it down to the 15 seconds. And that's all we were seeing, and then everybody raised hell.
Well, in addition to that methods, that they didn't put out the full information. They allowed for everything to pop off for a couple of days before they really gave the full picture of what happened.
Yeah, it was a lot quicker of a situation than what went on with Floyd. Mm-hmm. So that to me was suspect to begin with. But if I'm going to be doing that, we all know when we were raised here in America, when we're told when we have a cop walk up to the car or whatever, make sure you don't reach for anything too quickly. Explain when you're reaching for stuff. Mm-hmm. It's protocol for safety of both the officer and yourself because of what they're going through. Mm-hmm. And to me, anybody that's a cop especially during these times, and are holding on to their badge and they're continuing to try to do the right thing. They are unsung hero. I know that we all try to give them praise, but they deserve a lot more in this case because they're still working throughout all this stuff. Yeah. So I'm not trying to completely justify the situation. I don't believe that the cops should be held accountable though for that case.
Here's the other thing. You mentioned tensions being high. 2 weeks prior, a Kenosha PD officer had been shot in the stomach. Okay. I think we've seen almost over the course of this summer, we've seen a reluctance of police officers to fully do their jobs and to kind of, hold themselves back because they didn't want something like this to happen. But when you keep people like these officers in a heightened state of awareness where constantly, they know that something is going to pop off. They know that if they do the wrong thing, then they might be charged with murder. Look at the guys in Georgia. It's got to be an incredibly difficult situation to live under and to work under. Not only are you worried that you're going to go to work and maybe not come home, you're going to be just another statistic, but also there's a portion of the community that just loathes you and who's going to do anything in their power to thwart you from doing your job. I've seen people say, somebody in the chat the other day said only cowards shoot people in the back. I defy you to really understand what it's like to be an officer under these conditions, specifically the conditions that we're living through right now. I have no idea how I would react, and we can put that same scenario for additional people we're going to be talking about here in just a minute. But, how would you react? What do you think you would do? I bet you that it's not necessarily what would actually happen. These guys are thinking in a split second, it happened quickly. All right. He opens his door, reaches in, and then that's it. The bullets are flying. So,
I agree on that. And just real quick though, we got somebody in the chat that is rapid fire tagging us. Craig Medlin out there in the chat saying, True Pundits saying that sources say that Barr has instructed Durham to not focus on Obama and Biden. What do y'all think? Craig, I'm just going to go ahead and answer you here real quick because you obviously want an answer. First off, that's sources. Second of all, and I'm not trying to shoot down True Pundit. True Pundit says a lot of things. So as far as that goes, just waiting it out to see what Durham actually brings to the table. And that's how I feel, all because people come out with art. It's the same thing with that video that was on YouTube saying that it was some lawyer, I don't even remember who it was, saying that because Durham only brought charges to Kleinsmith, all signs point to that was the end of his investigation and he's done.
Oh my God.
That's cool. Yeah.
Some girl on Twitter, her account I think is going to get suspended, or at least it's restricted. She sent me that YouTube video. It was from Viva Fry and Robert Barnes, I believe his name is.
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
And she called me an effing idiot, saying that there were not going to be any more arrests because Robert Barnes said it. Robert Barnes doesn't work for the DOJ. I'm sorry to tell you that. That might be your opinion. You might think that Robert Barnes, and his opinion, that there are going to be no more arrests or that the investigation's over. Well, that's up to you. I personally don't believe that, but I feel like it's pretty ridiculous to send me a message saying that I'm an effing idiot. I generally like watching Robert Barnes and Viva Fry. I would love to have Viva Fry on the show. But, that's his opinion. He doesn't know what's going on. It's just, it's just people talking on the internet, just because somebody has a YouTube channel and they happen to have a degree doesn't mean that they truly know more. They're just guessing harder, I guess.
Right. And this show, minus us bringing the information that's being put out into the public square, is an opinion show.
Yeah.
We have no problem with people disagreeing with us, but when you come at people like Red Pill and call them names and stuff, because one other person said something different that has respect of others on the internet, it's just crazy. I'm sorry to just totally slide the conversation, Red Pill, but I felt like that comment wasn't going to stop.
Yeah.
So I figured I might as well just go ahead and take care of it. Thanks, guys, for understanding.
Yeah. So, keeping in mind also, Wisconsin has a Democrat governor, Tony Evers. They most likely wanted to create the situation that we're seeing right now because, they could have from the very start come out and said, he was reaching for a weapon. They could have said it was a justified shooting, but they chose not to. Okay. They held him up as a martyr. and his criminal record has come out. It turns out that he a sex offender, or was that the other guys?
I don't know. It was hard for me to keep up with it, man,
Okay.
to be honest. Maybe the chat can help us out with that.
All right. But, they actually deployed a taser in an attempt to stop him, but it was unsuccessful. And that's why you ended up with the actual gunshots. So, somebody in the chat said that police are trained to know how to act. And that's very true, but that doesn't mean that people can't get overly excited and make a mistake. Like, perfect example, that father in Arizona who answered the door at his apartment at like 2 a.m, and the police were standing in the shadows, so he couldn't see them, so he had to step out, and then they drew on him, and he said, whoa, and he put his gun down, and then he got shot in the back. That was totally unjustified. This, however, the guy had already ran through a taser. He was getting into his car to grab a weapon, and it was a justified shooting. And the government of Wisconsin did not release the information, which could have potentially quelled all of this violence. Now, it has continued night after night after night, and it's not getting any better. I mean, they were supposed to put in the National Guard, and I thought that was going to stop it, but it hasn't happened yet. But the parents of this guy, Jacob Blake, they appeared on the Clown News Network with Don Lemon, and they had some interesting things to say. I want to play this clip for you guys, but the mother had some positive things to say about President Trump, and Don Lemon, I think he just doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to think. He kind of loses his place there on the screen, and it definitely sent him for a loop when she says what she said. So let me go ahead and put the audio on. Yep, we got the share computer sound. Okay, so Methods can hear too. Here we go. Oops, hold on.
You. The destruction that has been taking place in cities across the country and in Kenosha. I heard you speak about that. And my question is, you said that you don't want that in Jacob's name, and neither would he. Tell me more about that, please.
Absolutely not. My family and I are very hurt and, quite frankly, disgusted. And as his mother, please don't burn up property and cause havoc and tear your own homes down in my son's name.
Yeah, I got it.
You shouldn't do it. People shouldn't do it anyway. But to use my child or any other mother or father's child, our tragedy, to react in that manner is just not acceptable. And it's not helping Jacob. It's not helping Jacob or any other of the men or women who has suffered in these areas.
Do you have anything to say, Ms. Jackson, to the politicians who are out there, or anything you want to say? To the presidents or the candidates, or to Trump or Biden or anything like that?
For our President Trump, first I want to say a family member, and I don't know if it was heard or not, said something that was not kind. She is hurting, and I do apologize for that. Our outburst that does not reflect our behavior. And then also for President Trump, I'm sorry I missed your call, because had I not missed your call, maybe the comments that you made would have been different. And I'm not mad at you at all. I have most respect for you as the leader of our country. Like I said before, and I'm not saying this to him directly, we should always get the details from the right source before we start throwing bricks.
So clearly you can see that what's happening on the streets is not representative of the man who got shot. It's not representative of his parents. And she respects President Trump. I mean, he is the commander-in-chief. But Don Lemon, who wants to blame everything on President Trump, he lost this moment, okay? She really showed him what's what. I absolutely love that.
Right, and that's the fascinating thing to me, is because he's stuck in the corner with these parents. Obviously, he needs to have them on to talk, and I respect them going on air with everything going on and speaking to all the people, you know, that actually watch that channel. But she said everything. Like, I agree with her.
Yeah.
It seems like they're very good parents as far as that goes. I'm assuming the husband's the same way. Like, she's trying to respect the situation, asking for, you know, actual evidence before we run with things. She even apologized to the president for missing the phone call. That to me is, they're very based parents. I'll say that.
Yeah. You know, and the look on the father's face when Don Lemon asked the question, it was like he knew what Don was fishing for. He was looking for a soundbite of these people to attack President Trump in this tragic moment. You know, whatever Jacob Blake has done in his life, whether or not it was a justified shooting, it is a tragedy in my book, okay? Anytime a police officer is forced to discharge their weapon in the course of their job and somebody gets hurt, no matter whether it was justified or not, I consider it a tragedy. Because the fact that he's out there doing these things, messing with the police in that way, he put himself in that situation. And then you have the psychological damage for the officers having to shoot this guy. I'm sure that they don't go home feeling good about it. Somebody in the chat said that their father was a Chicago police officer for 35 years, and he didn't go to work with murder on his mind. You know, none of these guys go to work and say, I hope I get to shoot a bad guy today. I mean, I don't think anybody does. You know, I mean, if you are, then, you know, there's a little bit of psychopathy going on right there. That's not how it should be. You know, these people should be protecting the streets. And if they have to do that, that's that's the action of last resort. You know,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. That was a lawyer next to her, not the father. Red Pill just showed me this clip 15 minutes before the show, so okay. I apologize for that.
Okay, so the attorney, not the father. I thought it was the father too. I didn't see it. Didn't read the article. I just watched the clip. You know, but so with all of this happening, you know, clearly they want people to be enraged. They want them to go hit the streets, and they want them to disrupt the country. They want them to blame it all on President Trump. They want to create as much havoc as possible. But then at the same time, CNN's narrative that these people are peaceful protesters is it's crumbling. You know, we have this other clip here. They characterized this as a fiery but mostly peaceful protest. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Let me go ahead and we'll throw it over on that side again.
Christine, Laura, what you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the course of the night. A second night since Jacob Blake was seen shot in the back 7 times by a police officer. And what you are seeing now, these images came and come in stark contrast to what we saw over the course of the daytime hours in Kenosha and into the early evening, which were largely peaceful demonstrations in the face of law enforcement. It wasn't until night fell that things began to get a little bit more contentious. Things were thrown back and forth. Police started using some of those crowd dispersal tactics like tear gas, even playing very loud sounds to push them out. And then what you are seeing, the common theme that ties all of this together, is an expression of anger and frustration over what people feel like has become an all too familiar story playing out in places from across the country, not just here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Christine, Laura?
All right. Thank you.
I mean, is it just me, or, I mean, don't they normally start the fires at night? I mean, that's when it has, like, the biggest impact. I don't think I remember seeing too many fires set during the day.
Right. And for him to say that all the chaos behind him is an expression of anger. And even Fox News, I had said this yesterday, yesterday mornings called these people demonstrators. And we step back as, like logical Americans, and we're like, your city is on fire. It's burning. Things are being destroyed. People's lives are getting ruined because their businesses are being destroyed. It's being looted, and there's no way to come back from it. And I've had a few people send me, like tweets or like public posts from some of these small businesses saying, we can't come back from this. Yeah, we're having to shut our doors. And so for them to get on the news and have the gall, at this point, we know they have no morality because they have no problem standing there doing this. But for them to do that while you're watching behind the scenes, people's livelihoods burning up, and that's not just metaphorical, like it's actually happening. It's disgusting. And the fact that they try to sell it, to me, I'll silver lining this, Red Pill. I am so grateful that we are seeing how corrupt, how evil, how easy it is for these people to lie, to manipulate, to control the public, to hold on to the narrative and sway public's opinion, even if it's over an election itself. To draw these demons, which I will call them demons, into the light and make them be seen for what they are. That, to me, I'm very grateful. That will be the silver lining that history will remember.
What's hilarious to me is that despite how obvious it is, they continue to cling to this narrative, fiery but peaceful. That's an oxymoron. Okay, you've got businesses and buildings being set on fire. You've got homes being set on fire with people and pets inside, and they're calling it peaceful. I mean, do you think we're idiots? Do you think the people watching your channel are idiots? Apparently, yes, they do. It's a laughable presumption to call it a fiery but peaceful protest, And in the wake of everything that's happening, I mean, they are clinging to that. And I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to, because things are just getting worse on a daily basis. After it popped off in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the same thing happened again in Minnesota, or in Minneapolis. You've got other additional riots taking place there. You've got all kinds of destruction, fires being set again, and you've got drive-by shootings, mass shootings taking place. Now, also yesterday, police were approaching a man. He was a murder suspect, and he walked over to a crowd of people and he self-deleted, like right there on film. Did you hear about that?
No, I did not. But that's where we are now. And I'm not trying to make, some things that we'll say on the show, there's no way that we can make it as comfy as we would like to.
No.
We are in the middle. I don't want to keep saying like the middle of the storm, but we knew the few months before the election was going to be chaos. We're watching the spiritual realm fighting itself because it's for the battle of the nation. There was a clip that I shared on my Twitter from somebody. I retweeted if you guys want to go find it, of the Democrats talking about they're fighting for the soul of the nation. And I know that they're using the political jargon for itself, saying we're trying to win back this country, and get it back on our agenda and all that. But that to me is like the double speak itself, because there has been an uprising of faith and belief and patriotism that I haven't seen in a long time over the last few years. And this is a battle. So what I'm getting at is that the spiritual realm, like we talk about with Mark Taylor, who will also be back on Sunday, and I'm excited for that because he needs to come back and talk. Yeah, we are seeing that battle bleed out into real life, into the flesh world, if you will. And it's gonna be that bad. And I just hope and pray for God's intervention. I'm not gonna call for us going out and fighting back in the streets. That is your own personal choice. And, we're going to live in the digital realm as far as the work that Red Pill and I do. But this is that bad. And just continue to pray for this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so while you've got the Democrats and the mainstream media responding to this, you've also got, of course, the bastions of morality in the sports world are responding. Now, the NFL has responded by having several teams I guess, halt practice so that they can have maybe a Zoom meeting on social justice issues. Or I don't know if they're going to be meeting in person, but the Jets, the Colts, and the Washington football team, they don't call themselves the Washington Redskins anymore. I think that's hilarious. When are they going to come up with a new name? Now, they're reporting that at least 3 football teams are canceling practice to focus on these issues. You know, as if we don't hear enough from these sports stars already. They need to figure out a way to better lecture us about morality and the things that need to change. Now, also, we had a report earlier that the NBA might be shutting down. I guess that the players of the LA Lakers and the LA Clippers, they walked off. They were going to stop playing until certain demands were met. And then, you know, how long did it last, Methods?
It lasted all of 12 hours, give or take. I mean, they because what happened yesterday was the Bucks would obviously they're in Milwaukee, so this stuff going on is right in their backyard. They decided from the locker room, or that's what was reported, is that they decided from the locker room that they weren't going to come out when they were playing the Orlando Magic. Magic was already out there practicing for pre-warm-up, and they just wouldn't come out of the locker room. And they're like, you know what, we're going to protest or whatever. But now it came out this morning that some of the Milwaukee Bucks actually wanted to play. So you can kind of see how the narrative took control. You know, I wonder what time the phone call from China came in for them to say, all right, we need to protest right now.
Right.
But, so as far as that, of course, the Lakers and the Clippers, who are both from L.A., were the ones that spoke out the most, talking about being against this. We need to do more. We need to use our voices. But now this morning, they're now going to resume playing basketball. A lot of the players want to play. And the part of the argument that they're having is that if they don't play, then they don't have their platform anymore to talk. Well, and I think that they had that self-realization of you aren't that valuable when it comes to your opinions. They just want to watch you be good at playing basketball.
Well, and I'm sure that the owners had something to say too. I mean, how much is revenue down in basketball right now? I mean, they're unable to sell tickets to games. I'm sure that people are not buying pay-per-view in the same way that they may have before they started lecturing us on how we should act. And just by virtue of the fact that you missed a bunch of games that were supposed to be played on television, all of that advertising revenue is gone. So where is all the money going to come from for their contracts, their multi-million-dollar contracts that they're supposed to get paid out whether or not they actually play? I bet you that the owners heard what they were doing and they were like, you can't do this. You're going to bankrupt the league.
Yeah, and that's the problem that the NBA has gotten themselves into. If I'm going to teach you something on sports ball today,
right on.
Like they have been increasingly raising the salary of these NBA players. I mean, we're seeing contracts for $250 million. It's ridiculous how much they get paid. But that's all based on, the tickets, the teams can justify that because of having fans in the seats, the overpriced food, the deals on the advertisements. If anybody who has watched basketball for a while, have you noticed how increasingly over time they've been adding advertisement things on the court to where it's in the TV screen view? I mean, it's on the what's holding the goal up, the pole itself. It's on the floor in front of the benches. It's everywhere. When they do the top camera down red pill to show from on top of the goal, they now put advertisements on the top of the backboard and sell that space.
Holy jeez.
They have all this money coming in and it's justifying it. But then when you aren't playing in their actual stadiums and selling these tickets, they took the big hit. And then now they had to move everything to this, this bubble of what they're calling in Florida at Disney to be able to at least have these things air, because they had to finish out enough to get to the contracts, because for them to get their deals when it comes to television sales and stuff like that, they had to reach an X amount of games. So don't get it twisted. They didn't come back to just play a little bit, to help everybody out. They had to meet a contract. And we just passed that in the last week.
Yeah.
So now they're like, okay, but you get the point. I can ramble on but this isn't the sports ball show. But what we're seeing here now is that they are in a crisis of, do we be woke and go broke, or do we play basketball and look like we don't care and have the fans that we still have be mad at us too? And so it's just a conflict of interest, and I love watching them deal with it.
I like to watch them squirm as well. So Kenosha being the epicenter of everything that happened, you know, the government in Wisconsin decided not to really do anything to quell this unrest. They refused to release the full information about the Blake incident. They allowed people to get the wrong idea, and they allowed it to be made into a tokenized issue. So as we've seen, people in certain cities are less likely to allow the rioting and the destruction to take place. So there were people that were guarding businesses there in Kenosha. And one such person was a 17-year-old named Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, they said that he's from Illinois, but from what it sounded like in some of the videos that I saw, it sounded like he actually was living there, and because he was talking about working at a business. They had the business had previously been attacked on the first night, maybe the second night, I don't remember now, but Kyle was there protecting it, and one of these rioters came up and threw something at Kyle. Now, it could have been a Molotov cocktail. It could have been a brick. It could have been a bottle of water. I don't know. But they attacked him. They were egging him on. And something happened. And the first man was shot in the head. So once that happened, it set the rioters off. And they began to chase Kyle down the street. Now, when that happened, there were people with guns. There were people with skateboards. One person that was shot in the chest and later died hit Kyle in the head, in the face with his skateboard. You could tell from watching the video, he was trying to get away from them. He was not trying to antagonize them, and he certainly wasn't trying to mow them down. But once he got hit in the head, you know, that was it. I mean, it's self-defense. He shot that guy, and then another protester who was pretending to be a medic came up with his hands up as if he was surrendering and then pulled out a handgun. And then that guy got hit in the arm. And then Kyle got away, and apparently he went through the police line, and then the next day he turned himself in, and he has been charged with intentional homicide. But the whole thing is a tragedy, okay? Number one, because the Dems allowed this to happen. They refused to protect their city, which meant that people like Kyle and other people in Kenosha felt that they needed to be out there protecting their businesses and protecting their property. That should never have happened. And then you had these people that are out there destroying the buildings, destroying the businesses, coming after people, injuring people that don't agree with them, I guess. And you know, I mean, and they're not going to be held accountable for it. Well, unfortunately, now they have been held accountable to the ultimate justice. And the most tragic thing to me is that this 17-year-old boy now has the possibility of spending life in prison. But Methods, it seems like there are some powerful lawyers out there who believe that he was completely justified.
Right. Yeah. The same person that represented Nicholas Sandman, who was just recently at the RNC speaking. For everybody, I'm sure you remember, he was the Covington kid that was wearing the MAGA hat, smirking, you know, all that stuff. Well, Linwood is already stepping in, and he's going to get involved in this. He's offered to help out Kyle for free. Good. Because the evidence is there, and I understand, because I've been watching a lot of the argument this morning, because they try to take it apart because apparently he's 17. I heard some people saying he actually turned 18 in January, but I didn't see anything actually proving either way. So let's just go with what they're saying. Yeah. And that it was illegal for him to be having the gun in public like that. You know, okay, charge him for that then, right? Charge him for that. But what do you think self-defense in a 2A America would look like being attacked by a mob?
It's what it looks like to me. You know, I mean, he was being chased down by a mob of people, at least one. Those last two guys, all right, those are both deadly weapons. Whether it's a handgun or a board to the face and to the head, you could easily get a head injury and die, or have permanent brain damage. You know, the only thing that we don't have is video of the original incident. We have something right after it. And I reported on this yesterday. He's running away from the scene, and I can hear him talking on his cell phone, and he said that he just shot somebody. But there are witnesses there who clearly state that the man who died first from the head injury, he was coming after Kyle. He was antagonizing him. He was threatening him. And earlier in the day, he had been threatening not only Kyle, but others who were guarding their businesses, goading them, telling them to go ahead and shoot him, and he used a racial epithet. So very, very tragic situation. It never should have gotten to this point, you know? I mean, even if Kyle gets out of this situation, if it is successfully argued that he was justified in protecting his own life, I mean, I've that's the kind of stuff that sticks with you, you know? I mean, who wants to be a 17-year-old kid and then, you know, wake up in the middle of the night remembering those terrible actions that you had to take? I mean, it's the kind of thing that sticks with people. And, you know, I don't think that there's anybody in the world that would, you know, hope that this kind of stuff would happen. I don't want this stuff happening in the United States, but I am damn proud that we have the Second Amendment so that we are able to protect ourselves should it become necessary.
Right. I mean, he wasn't out there, you know, doing Grand Theft Auto, going around just mowing people down because it was fun. He had the opportunity. He was walking around with the AR-15, I believe is what he had, right?
Yep.
But no, I agree with you. You can't blame him. You can't blame the gun. And yes, you can blame the protesters and rioters, but this blood is on Tony Evers' hands. Mm-hmm. This is definitely on the local government. The president, you can't blame the president per se, because it's got to be requested. Otherwise, you are taking over a state. And I mean, I don't have everything prepared to explain it legally, but as far as this goes, this falls on Tony Evers' hands.
Absolutely.
And now they're apparently he's going to be bringing in people now. The National Guard's on its way, or they're already there. But I mean, it didn't have to get this far, and that goes for all the other places. You know, your Portlands and things going on. What happened in D.C. alone? You know, it should not have gotten this far, and it needs to. The blame doesn't need to end up everywhere else, and not end up in the hands of on the hands of the local politicians. Yeah. But real quick before we move on, we're dancing at right around 4,600 people hanging out with us. We really do appreciate it. If you guys don't mind turning that thumb blue, I got 1.5 thousand likes. Let's see if we can get that to 2,000 real quick. That'd be great. And if you guys don't mind, you know, sharing this out, we still got another 45 minutes left, or whatever. And also, thank you for donating.
All right. And now, the other thing about it is that the media and the SJWs in government, they're trying to paint him as some type of a radical white supremacist. Clearly, he wasn't. There is video that was captured of him earlier in the day by the Daily Caller. Let me go ahead and get that pulled up. I want you to get a taste for the type of kid that Kyle is.
What are you doing out here? Obviously you're armed and you're in front of this business we saw burning last night, so what's up?
So people are getting injured, and our job is to protect this business, and part of my job is to also help people. If there's somebody hurt, I'm running into harm's way. That's why I have my rifle, because I need to protect myself, obviously, but I also have my med kit.
What are you doing out here?
So in stark contrast to the rioters and the looters, he's not there to burn stuff down. He's not there to cause destruction. He's there to protect, and he's there to help people if they need help. So he was also photographed earlier in the day removing graffiti, which the rioters had painted. I believe this looks like it was on the courthouse. You know, I mean, so not a bad kid. All right, he's a good kid. His heart's in the right place. He was put in an impossible situation. Now, the other thing about it is, let's talk about the people who are no longer on this earth. It turns out that they are all three despicable individuals. You've got three violent attackers of Kyle Rittenhouse. All three were convicted felons. One was a sex offender. One was convicted of felony burglary. And one was a serial domestic abuse, strangulation, and use of a dangerous weapon. All three of them chased Kyle, and they violently assaulted him, and they were shot in self-defense. This is the first man that was initially shot in the head, who was the sex offender. This is the guy who was a serial domestic abuser, and this is his rap sheet. He's got quite a few charges for that. And then this is the guy who was hit in the arm. And he was the one who was pretending to surrender, had a handgun, and went to pull it on Kyle. And then that's it. That's what happened. So clearly self-defense. And I'm looking forward to a successful conclusion and resolution to this. But more than anything else, I want the unrest in the streets to stop, and I want people to start putting the blame where it's due. You're absolutely right, Methods. This is on the hands of the governors and the mayors of these cities that are allowing this to happen. It has nothing to do with the federal government. They were offered federal assistance, and they decided to decline it. Okay, they clearly wanted stuff like this to pop off, so then they could use it as a political tool.
Well said, and I don't really have that much more to add in this because everybody, listening right now is seeing a lot of this information. It was shared very well. Let's see how this plays out. I do hope that Kyle, doesn't get used as a political tool by the local DA or whatever to, make an example out of him, because you could see their fear of people standing up and defending their homeland, their local cities. And if he isn't held responsible, and we have all the evidence to show how it was handled correctly, if you are unfortunately in that situation, then that to them, they don't want a rising up America like that. We don't even want this going on in our streets to begin with, but sometimes the hand gets tipped too far and we end up in these circumstances. But hopefully, November 4th can't come soon enough, right?
Yeah, right around the corner. I'm there. Now, some good news from this situation. The U.S. Marshals are in Kenosha. And earlier today, or maybe it was even late yesterday, they started taking out the infrastructure mechanisms being used by the rioters. There's this place called an riot kitchen. They go to these riot places and they set up shop and they prepare food for these people. So they're going in and they're dismantling this like corporate riot system that they move from place to place to keep these people fed. Now, you had mentioned that we are internet demons now, Methods.
Yeah, another badge for us to wear. Where we are, the projection's pretty on point with that one if you think about it.
Yeah. So this is from Christianity Today, saying that this movement is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, what is their reasoning for calling us this? Or is it just that they don't like that something is getting attention and it's antithetical to the corporate model?
Well, I mean, basically everybody should read the article. I'm going to drop it in the chat for everybody to have, just so you can understand, because you can see how because we started talking recently, not just this entire movement, and people like Mark Taylor and stuff are talking about how this is a spiritual battle. The churches not being able to be open, but they're allowed to protest and riot in the streets and go to the liquor store or Walmart. But the painting of this picture is that we're being deceivers with this hidden knowledge of information that we're trying to give out. As far as if you tap into the secret knowledge, you're going to be, wide awake. They're acting like we are trying to give out the apple from the Garden of Eden. And then they're using scripture to kind of justify it. And once again, and I said this on my show yesterday, and I have no problem saying it here as well, I try to give people somewhat of a pass, or at least an understanding that a lot of people are looking from the outside in. We see this stuff every day. We live and breathe, especially Red Pill and I, this information, paying attention to all this stuff. Some of these people just see a certain few things, or they have a friend who says, oh yeah, I know about that QAnon, and then they give them all the same talking points from the mainstream media, give the few examples, and then they believe it. So they're coming from that world. But the problem that we're having here is that they're speaking out and using Bible verses that, spoiler alert, this side reads too, and perverting it in a way, because we know it's not truthful. We aren't hateful people. We actually love and care and spread, we try to spread, God's love through our actions and taking care of people. Even if you aren't, and once again, if you're not religious in the audience, we're not counting you out either. It's your religious choice is yours, and we shouldn't be forcing anything down anybody's throats. But this article and the other articles that we're seeing come out recently, there's like a coordinated attack coming from the church, system itself, that's trying to talk about how evil we are. And based on anything, think about all the birthday love Suki just got earlier in the show. How evil a group of people really celebrating somebody that they don't even know. Yeah, but that's basically it, man. They're just perverting. They're trying to pervert the opinion of who we are through the church system, because we know churches are going to open up eventually. And
well, they mentioned that that there is a Church of QAnon, and I've heard of that, and I saw that there was a YouTube channel, but I mean, just because something exists as a small fringe faction of like whatever it is, I mean, it doesn't mean that it's representative of everything. And I saw that they had a specific section in the article, or they actually made like a little podcast. What does the Bible say about Q?
Yeah, it was something like that. I kind of want to listen to it.
Yeah,
and just to hear what they have to say. But that's where we are now, because they can't. They're so worried that they don't want churches open, and we know it's, not only just obviously, trying to push people away from God, or at least having that moment of fellowship publicly, and getting the cup filled, as most people will say from church. They know that people are going to be getting back into churches, and this is laying the groundwork of anybody. They're basically going to try to say, if you follow Q, you're not welcome. You're following that God, not our God. It
also, I mean, the argument sounds familiar to things that we've heard recently, and it's hilarious. It also looks like they support Joe Biden. They have this article, Joe Biden campaigns on faith. Really? I haven't seen anything to indicate that at all.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on, we have a statement also from Lindsey Graham saying that this movement is BAT, S-H-I-T.
Yeah, that came out, I guess it was this morning or something like that. They did an interview and they asked him. And like people like Meadows, we were talking about that earlier, they try to, even Chad Wolf, they try to say, all right, well, it's not that important to be putting our energy into. We don't know much about it. And they get away from it in under a minute. They get their point out and move on. But Graham and his attention, how much he loves it. He went on talking in a full paragraph about it. And I could pull it up. Do you have it pulled up?
I do have it pulled up. Here's the thing, is that they have the same talking points every time. Cannibals, pedos, deep state. And then they always bring up that FBI memo, which has now been debunked. We're actually going to talk about that. But Lindsey Graham said, crazy stuff, inspiring people to violence. I think it's a platform that plays off people's fears, that compels them to do things they wouldn't normally do, and it's very much a threat.
Your Lindsey Graham is pretty, at least spot on, because it's funny to me.
Yeah, okay. And then he continues, I would like to remove Section 230 liability, that if you're going to have a social media site like QAnon or anything else, you spread this stuff at your own peril. So when this guy went into the pizza, and then they go into the Comet pizza stuff, totally, unrelated stuff, absolutely unrelated. But they have to tie those things together because they've already dismantled that movement from back in 2015. And if they can tie what's happening right now back to that, then they can go ahead and just point to that and say, there you go, problem solved. It's all been debunked. Everything is, this is crazy stuff. And, we were talking before the show. I don't know what to think about Lindsey Graham. At best, I'm certain he is a rhino, okay? I don't think he's ever sat on the right side of the fence. He has always straddled the middle, and he'll do whatever it takes to save his own skin, whether that is kowtowing to, the left, or kowtowing to the right, or kowtowing to the media, wherever he's at. I don't trust Lindsey. I think that Lindsey is a useful tool for President Trump on certain occasions. He's done and said some good things, but then he turns around and does stuff like this that, would make you think that he's not necessarily on the side of the Patriots.
I agree on that. And we'll go ahead and put it out to the audience here, and then I'll do a little Occam's razor on how I feel about it. Give me a 1 in the chat, because I get this. Anytime I call out anybody that's on our side, I get replies from some people saying they're playing a role, good actors, watching a movie, blah, yada, yada, yada.
Totally
Give me
possible.
Yeah, which is fine. Give me a 1 if you trust Lindsey Graham. If you think he's playing his role, he's doing what he's supposed to do, and this is all just for show. Give me a 2 if you don't trust him at all, or at least, you think he is the rhino that we know him to be, and he's actually slow rolling all this stuff. Give me a 1 if you trust him and trust what he's doing, and he's a part of the plan. Give me a 2 if you just don't. And we'll go from there. Okay, so a lot of 2s are going to roll in here because I definitely I agree with that to a point, because we have that. We understand that decisions are made a lot behind the scenes, and we don't get to see what's going on. And
optics are important too.
Optics are important. Timing of things are important, because we can agree that the timing of the Durham investigation and how that plays out is very important to how to deal with the counterattacks going on from the left. Mm-hmm. And the Senate hearings that Graham is supposed to have already been doing about this time last year, being slow rolled, and I understand the Rona, leads me to believe that it's either because in my head I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's having to time this out, and to where these hearings are happening with Durham to make sure that it's correct. But when I see things like this article and other stuff going on, my trust for the idea that that is even possible just drops like another 5-10%.
Michelle Cannon, I can't believe what I'm hearing. This channel proclaims God in a balanced and appropriate way, and subtly it is a news channel, and you deliver it objectively, in my opinion. I'm glad that that's what you're hearing, because that's certainly what we're trying to put out,
Oh man, best review we've heard so far.
Yeah, thank you for that. Here's the number one thing for me. You know who I trust? President Trump. I trust his judgment. I trust that he is intelligent enough to put people around him that will do what he wants them to do when necessary, say the things that need to be said, and if there needs to be optics making it appear that Lindsey Graham is, not a part of the true patriot movement, then so be it. There are so many things happening behind the scenes, and we're not privy to them, it's nothing new. It's like everything else. But the only thing that I trust is that President Trump is going to have somebody around him who will do what he needs them to do when the time comes. And if Lindsey Graham truly in his heart is, a self-serving jackal, then that will be revealed. But he's been a useful tool for President Trump, and I believe he will continue to be, no matter where his heart truly lies.
Right, and these are the kind of things we kind of go through this with Lindsey Graham every 6 months or so, because back with the Kavanaugh hearings and the epic conversation about enemy combatants and all that, I mean, we had the memes, we were cheering him on, but yeah, self-serving jackal is probably the best way I would describe how I feel about him personally. But hey, out there, I'm not saying you're wrong. We don't know if you have a different opinion about it, but that's just how we feel, because people ask us for our opinions, and we kind of do this on the show.
Yeah, lots of people bringing up No Name. We just had the 2-year delta of his passing. Yeah, I think that Lindsey Graham is literally a tool being used by President Trump. But you go back and you look at his relationship with No Name. You look at, what happened. I mean, he had a part to play in the dissemination of the dirty dossier as well. So, would I invite Lindsey over for dinner? No. Would I let him, watch my kids? Absolutely not. Pepe Powell said that he's got a little sugar in his tank. That's always been something that people on the left have brought up specifically. I mean, they've questioned his motivations, and but Lindsey Graham, he's a bachelor, isn't he? I don't even know if he's married. I don't know what his domestic situation is. Well, listen, before we get into anything else, there's only a couple of donations I need to go through, so let me just say thank you to all of these people from PayPal. Jeremy Hill, any thoughts on Drop 1977? It's 2-year delta, and POTUS delivers tonight at the White House. Well, let's go ahead and look at 1977.
Yeah, because you can get back on QMAP now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's odd is that QAG wasn't working yesterday, and then when it came back up, then the map went down.
Yeah, I got probably 100 messages in 15 minutes about QMAP being down.
Yeah. All right. So big statement. What's coming? You know, President Trump is speaking tonight. Honestly, I have no thoughts necessarily on it. Could President Trump be delivering a big statement tonight? Absolutely. You know, there is obviously some big things happening in the country, and President Trump might take some specific decisive action and announce that to the country tonight. But what could it be? I really don't have any clue. Any thoughts, methods yourself?
Well, obviously, anytime that's a big stage like this, that Trump's going to be shown on most networks, or at least for parts of it, I expect for him to use that as an opportunity to say something that at least maybe we'll get and understand what he means, or he's hinting at something. But I try not to set the bar all the way up to where he's just going to stand up there and then call out Durham and he's going to read out indictments. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to raise the bar that high on it. I just want to enjoy a good speech from tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and anytime the president speaks, you know that you're going to be in for a treat. Hunter, very generous donation. Thank you, Hunter. I appreciate that. Let's see, from Tracy. She says, happy 42nd birthday. Thank you very much, Tracy. Hey, Jude says, Blake family lawyer is the George family lawyer. Ben Crump, ambulance chaser, but worse. Very interesting. Teresa, thank you very much for that. Dennis says, nothings. Thank you very much for that, Dennis. And then Mark, like your show, found your donate button on YouTube. Makes easier to donate. Thanks for your efforts and show. Yeah, I don't like your show, found your donate button on YouTube. I don't have a donate, but I think you're talking about super chats. They demonetized my channel. So unfortunately, that's why you don't see that when you're on a live stream anymore. But also, looks like there's one from Susie on Cash App. Thank you very much, Susie. And Steve, he says, I'm losing all hope. Pray for me. Steve, absolutely. Everybody, please pray for Steve. Steve, don't lose hope, buddy, okay? It's always darkest before the dawn. We are so close to November, and we've known for a long time that it was going to get worse before it got better. What they want you to do is to lose hope. They want you to be completely demoralized. You know, I mean, like, okay, we just talked about the demonetization. They took away my ability to make a living doing this, or, you know, to be successful at it. But it doesn't matter, because even if there was nothing coming in, I would still be doing these shows every day, because what we are doing is supporting the mission of the president and trying to restore our country. That is more important than anything else. And if you lose hope, if you are demoralized, and then they have won, okay? You can't let them win. We have to continue this, and we have to finish up. We have to make it through November and beyond that. Now, things are happening behind the scenes. Again, we don't know what they are. But I guarantee you, President Trump is going to win in November. And the only way I can say that decisively is because, unfortunately, as a result of everything that's happened, people have woken up. People who are lifelong Democrats are looking at the situation across the country, and they say, this is what the Democrat Party supports? This is the life they want me to lead? And people are saying no, they are going to show up for President Trump. So please, brother, do not lose hope. I will continue to pray for you, and I want everybody in the chat to continue to pray for Steve as well.
Yeah, and to anybody that does have that feeling, just to, you know, touch on that in a second, we are in the most difficult times of this entire process since this started. Obviously, we can make an argument for further past that. But as far as what we're doing here, paying attention, trying to, you know, break news or take apart narratives and stuff, we can see, and I've seen a lot of people say this, that the left is intention is to be relentlessly stressful for us.
Yes.
They have no problem lying, which is frustrating to hear, because we see people lying and we get mad at the television screen or mad at a tweet because we see that. And we're like, why don't they retract it if it doesn't even help them at a certain point when it gets taken apart? Well, part of that goal is to piss you off and frustrate you and make you feel like you're losing and make you feel like you don't have enough gas in the tank to make it to the finish line. And so if you feel at all down and feel like, you know, you're overwhelmed or you feel like you want to give up, that's understandable.
Absolutely.
But the reason why we have tried to, you know, create this community and, you know, thread together and have these chats with everybody, you know, 4 or 5 times a week, is because we're trying to make sure that everybody gets, you know, at least can relate with everybody and have that support, that shoulder to lean on. You can hear our points of views when we're angry, when we're happy, when we're frustrated as well. And just know that you aren't alone, because you can hang out with people that, to me, are the best people I've ever met my entire life. And many of them, I don't know their names at all. So definitely know it's okay to feel that way, but just know that you can find peace and solace through the community that you have, and reach out and talk to people, and I'm sure they'll be there for you.
Okay. Man, we got some peaches in the chat today. Okay, moving on to the next portion of the story. I mentioned that FBI memo. Now, I saw it floating around yesterday that there was somebody was reporting that memo that was put out by Yahoo News, supposedly from the Arizona office of the FBI, that there was that footnote about how this movement was, a terrorist threat or something like that. And that it was actually Yahoo that added that information to that memo. Well, there was one organization called celebmagazine.com. They called the FBI field office in Arizona, and they asked them about this, if they designated this group as this T organization. And their response was, the FBI does not and cannot designate domestic terror groups. The FBI can never initiate an investigation based solely on an individual's race, ethnicity. But the gist of it is that they didn't actually say that, and they didn't do that designation. So whatever happened, it's a false narrative that's been pushed out by the media, and they grabbed onto it from the moment that it came out on the scene, and it's just completely fake.
Yeah, it was an organized, basically informational FF, flags that are false or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
On us, because it became a talking point, because they only have 4 or 5 circumstances that have happened, or they pick the most, I'll just say, extreme thing that gets said, or at least, people ask the public to say, is the achrome blood stuff legit? Is the reptilian stuff legit? Things get talked about. Some people believe it, but they pick apart the most, to them, extreme things, add it to a list, and then all the media covers it. So the fact that we had this curious FBI memo show up out of Arizona, no less, and that becomes the immediate talking point, because you remember when that came out, right, Red Pill?
Oh, yeah.
It was immediately spread everywhere.
Yeah.
It was a target. It was a coordinated attack on us, and I'm glad that it's being taken apart now.
Yeah, me too. Let's see. Miss Sue, I don't know what video you're talking about, but I'll take a look at it. But let's see. Miracle Girly says, thanks for all that you and Methods do. Thank you very much, Miracle Girly. Do you know what video she's talking about? Julian's Realm apparently put out a video.
Apparently, I saw it in the chat earlier, and I just didn't get a chance to hop over and look. I don't know how far back it'll be, but from now. But we're not trying to ignore you out there. We just have things that we plan out before the show to talk about.
Yeah. But the next bit of news, which is good news, is that the DOJ is evaluating whether to initiate investigations under the Civil Rights of Institutionalized Persons Act, CRIPA, and whether the state orders in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, all of the huge hotbeds of elderly people who passed away from CV-19 in nursing homes, if they are responsible for the deaths of those nursing home residents. This is huge news right here, because it's clear that President Trump and us, we all agree that the only reason we had the number of people passing away from this sickness is because they pushed all of these elderly and at-risk people together in these nursing homes. Okay, so now, remember that bed sheet that somebody put on the highway and it said, Cuomo killed my mom?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So now the Department of Justice is requesting data from these governors of these states, these Democrat governors of these states, to look into it. And personally, I think it's pretty obvious that the orders that they gave are exactly why these people ended up passing away. And then you had situations like in Detroit that 19-year-old or that young guy who was a boxer or some type of a cage fighter, and he was, punching that old man on camera. He filmed it and then put it out. That old man passed away. He never recovered. I'm waiting for that guy to get charged with murder personally, but he wouldn't have been in that nursing home if it hadn't been for the fact that he had been diagnosed with CV-19 and Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan signed that order pushing all of those people together into those nursing homes. Okay, so Newsom also did this. Well, then we'll have to see. I mean, it would make sense if they're going to be looking at all of these other states, but they don't name it specifically. But yeah, it's they because these people are in some type of an institution, the government of these states, they have a responsibility to protect their health, their safety, and their well-being, and they did the exact opposite.
Yeah, so as soon as we saw this break yesterday, we all kind of could see where that was going, because I mean, even outside of what our favorite Anon has said about this, about how, what you can prove, we could see the writing on the wall on that, and a lot of people had been calling this out for a while. Mm-hmm. And once again, the wheels of justice turn slow as hell, but the fact that we have them willing to look at this information and bring it in publicly, we need to track this and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it goes in the forms of announcements about, because it'll typically be a such and such a governor or whatever is announcing stepping down and is going to give a statement. Yeah. And then the next thing you hear is, an indictment or something like that, right?
Right. And the other thing that's very important is that just because it's only these 4 states being announced now, it doesn't mean the other states that did this aren't going to be looked at as well. And Valerie in the chat said if they're announcing this now, then they already know. I totally agree with you.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
They've been gathering data for months and months and months. They've got the information, so they know what's going on. Let's see. I need to say thank you to Anne. Let's see. Thank you very much for that, Anne. Also to Sheila. Happy birthday, RP. I appreciate you there. Thanks for that. Let's see. Carolyn says, thank you. You raise my hope every day. Good. I'm glad that I'm able to help you with that. So yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate that. And I mean, that's another reason I think, methods, correct me if I'm wrong, but that we do this. I mean, we know how difficult it is out there. I mean, we've lived many years under the thumb of these people, thinking that everything was lost, that there was nothing we could do until we got to this moment in history and we realized that we could have an integral part to play in helping to move the country forward and in helping to bring down this system, this institutionalized system that the cabal has put us under. And it's not specifically focusing on any race or creed. It's mankind, I mean, it's all people living underneath it. And again, it's not just the United States. I mean, the cabal is deep and wide. Okay, they are covering the entire surface of the earth, and so we can be here and we can help offer a little bit of support for everybody and try to offer our unique perspective on what's happening and why it's not time for anybody to give up. Okay, the fight is not over. We're not at the end of the road. I mean, there are many miles ahead of us. And even once we get past November, it's probably going to be something that we're working on, continually on into the future, because evil is not going to just go away. It's not going to disappear. It's still going to be here, and they're going to need us. They're going to need us to keep fighting. And I hope you guys can continue to do that with us.
Yeah, well said on that. And I mean, for me personally, without rambling too long about it, is each step of what I've been doing, going from, being Anon on the board, helping dig a little bit in the beginning, to, I'm going to go to social media, help out a few months, and then I'll bail back out because I hate social media, and we see how that turned out. Mm-hmm. So, having more and more people reaching out, trying to understand, and then saying, all right, I'm going to make the leap because it's easier for me to talk and explain myself. And I want other people to do like what Red Pill does. So I'm going to hop over here and hang out and do a few guest spots. And then it turned into doing a show with Red Pill. Now I'm doing my own channel. we want to help where we can, and we're feeling not guided like we're making all the right decisions, but we're trying to do what we can in the moment and what we see needs fit. And what we see for this time now, with all this stuff going on around us, is to be able to spend time with you guys, hang out, share what we find, try to break some kind of information to you, and give our 2 cents about it. Then you could take your opinion and go, wherever you want with it. But we want to help, and that's the only reason why. If like we've said before, if evil was eradicated and we didn't have to do this, have to cover these kind of things and hold the media accountable and hold Congress people accountable when it comes to giving the truth about what's really going on, then we would stop. Like there would be no purpose to it. So we just really appreciate that you guys, hang out with us, multiple times a week. And we do all that. And then on that note, if you don't mind me doing a shameless plug.
Absolutely.
We had our episode yesterday on my channel. My buddy Scott, Woke Societies. We did our 4th episode of Methods to Madness yesterday. Went really, really well. We actually broke 2,100 people hanging out with us, which is crazy to me being the 4th episode, but you guys are great. So I'm going to drop the link to that episode in the chat. And also we announced during that show, so I'm going to go ahead and spoiler alert that. We announced that we are going to be doing a second show a week on my channel on Fridays, and my co-host for that day, so I don't have keep Scott's time too much. On Fridays is going to be our buddy Adel, 412 and on. He's going to be co-hosting with me on Fridays starting a week from tomorrow, and we're going to be shifting both shows to 2:30 p.m. Eastern so it can work out with his schedule. So just be on the lookout for that. We're excited. And so you guys are going to be dealing with me 4 days in a row straight during the day, starting next week. So
beautiful, dude. Good stuff. I need to say thank you again to Hey Jude. She said early birthday present. I really appreciate it. And then Robert Zook in the chat said he was in and out and he didn't know if I had received his donation. I don't see any donation from Robert Zook, and I just want to make sure that you're sending it to the correct one, paypal.me/redpill78news. Now, you might have sent it to my old PayPal, which I don't advertise, and I don't get the notifications for that because I can only be logged into one at a time, and it shouldn't be anywhere. So if anybody is sending donations, please make sure you go to paypal.me/redpill78news, and there is a little box that you have to check. It automatically defaults to say that you are sending it as payment for a good or service. And since you're not, uncheck it because then PayPal won't take a cut of the donation. Now, let me just check on Cash App. Yeah, Robert, I don't see anything. I will check my old PayPal after the show. It's a process. I have to get unlogged. I have to log out from everything else in order to get into that. But I need to just close it. I just keep getting caught up in the daily work that we're doing here. So the other bit of good news, want to talk about Hurricane Laura currently battering the Louisiana coastline, and we've got Spicy Conservative, a viewer of the show. Haven't seen you today, haven't seen you for a couple of days. I'm assuming maybe you might have had to, get out of Dodge because you were in the path of those 2 tropical storms. Hurricane Laura has been downgraded to a tropical storm, so that is good news. And Robert Zook, sort of weird setting up PayPal. Yeah, you have to put in personal information, Robert, and if you don't put in all the information, then it holds the donation sometimes. There's somebody else, another Robert with a different last name. On August 23rd, he sent a donation, but it's pending because it's probably asking him to confirm some information. And then William from back in June, that's still pending. So I don't even consider those ones as donations because they haven't come through. I wait for them to say that they're finalized before I can go ahead and do it. Lynn, how can I send the video to you? You can send it to my email, redpill78@protonmail.com. Let's see. Oh, actually, Gafferanon had a video he wanted to send over too. Hold on just a second. Let me try to get this pulled up. It's just a little silly video. Where is it? Okay. Let me see if this worked here. Great. Where is it?
Well, while you're doing that, just in the chat, because I've seen a couple people confused about it. Today is not actually Red Pill's birthday. It's just kind of being celebrated throughout the week. His birthday is going to be on Sunday, and he is going to be 42, correct?
That's right. I'm going to be 42. My birthday is on Sunday, August 30th. I saw somebody ask if Mark Taylor was going to be on at the time of my birth. No, I was born in the morning, so he's going to be on roughly 12 hours after my birth. But either way, it's the whole day is my birthday, so I am honored that Mark is going to be joining us on that day, and I hope that you guys can all join us on Comfy Sunday as well. I'll have. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we were gonna. I was trying to tell you that we should take that day off so you could enjoy your birthday, and he didn't. I just want to let your audience know he wasn't having it. He wanted to spend his evening with you guys and hang out with Mark Taylor. It's such a good episode. Anytime we chat with him, but he didn't even flinch when I brought him up not doing it. He wanted to hang out with you guys. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely if anybody's going to donate, he's going to need fresh tennis balls for his walker. So looking forward to it, man.
All right. Also, Singing Pretty, she says, how can I be sure you read an email I sent? I've sent a few, but I never heard you got them. It's because I get hundreds a day. I'm not going to respond to most people's emails, and I do apologize for that. I don't have the time, and it's because of everything else that I have to do. I appreciate anybody who sends me an email. I do my best to get to them as quickly as I can, but because of how many I get, I generally have a backlog of 1,000 unread emails on a rolling daily basis. I will go through and I will, try to look at as many as I can on a single day. But then I also have to take days off. I have days where I don't look at any emails, where I don't look at any messages, where I don't even make a video. It's a few and far between. But generally speaking, I'm not going to respond to most emails. There's only a few select that I'm going to respond to. Because even on top of everybody just sending me tips and stuff like that, I have to stay in contact with people that I'm trying to schedule for upcoming shows, and it's just too much. I'm sorry. I have a limit for how much work I can do to continue to keep this going. I could literally spend all day every day reading my email, and I wouldn't be able to do anything else. Yeah. All right. So good news on the tropical storm. Here is a weather pattern of the probable wind force speed capabilities. This is where it's at right now. It was what is that? A level 2. Is that what they call it? A category 2. But it started out as a category 4. It became a category 2 when it hit landfall, and now it is down to a tropical storm. So.
I mean, that is the silver lining. I did wake up to, seeing all over the news and stuff, the damage that's been caused.
Yeah.
In the path of this hurricane. So once again, we pray and we hope for everybody that's dealing with that right now, that they can, they're okay, obviously, but also that they can get their lives back to normal as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And, but besides that, like you said, it has been lowered down dramatically. So at least we have that going for us.
All right. Well, there's also one more little bit of news. There have been child trafficking protests outside of Buckingham Palace in the UK. People are protesting Prince Andrew. And earlier this week, or maybe late last week, I saw some video going around. It didn't have any, sourcing information, but Zero Hedge is reporting that there continues to be protests all around outside of the palace. Clearly, people have woken up to a much greater degree than they ever have. I mean, the UK has seen some terrible things, the Jimmy Savile case, I mean, many cases of institutional abuse of children there in Parliament, the House of Lords, and clearly Prince Andrew and his proximity to the deceased billionaire financier Jeffrey Epstein. But now people are they're not going to let him get away with it, and he is still wanted for questioning by the U.S. authorities. So I wouldn't be surprised if this continued on for quite some time, and be on the lookout for additional video. Let's see. The source we have, I'm afraid that if I play this video, it's going to get copyright struck. So what I'm going to do, is I'm going to leave the link here in the description, or excuse me, in the chat right there. So you can go ahead and take it.
But yeah, it's definitely good to see that kind of, heat being turned up over there and they're on that side of the pond and in that territory of where they are, because they are, there's a lot of international red tape and dealing with these kind of things when it comes to investigations and stuff. So the fact that they're also hearing it from the public over there is fantastic. So shout out to them for sure.
Yeah, keep going, UK Patriots. We can make a difference, and don't give up. Everybody's just got to keep your head and your wits about you. Keep looking forward. Keep your eyes on the prize, and then keep your faith and keep your hope alive. And remember that President Trump is anointed for this moment in time. We have done so much. We have achieved so much. We have come so far. Now is not the time to give up. Don't lose hope, my friends. Keep your faith and, continue to just move forward. We're going to win. We are so close. And every dog has his day. Yep. The Kane, no name. Sorry, I said his name.
Look at you. Oof.
Yeah.
But hey,
you know what? Bill Binney on Twitter. There's a real Bill Binney and there's a fake Bill Binney. One of them is followed by Sidney Powell. That is the real Bill Binney. The other guy with 17,000 followers, fake Bill Binney. Don't follow him.
Right. Now, just real quick, because I know we're at the end of the show. Here in an hour, I'm going to go ahead and, if you guys are looking for something to watch, 412 is having his weekly show. That's every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern with our buddy, Quite Frankly, and Brendan Dilley. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you guys. Go grab something to eat, take a break for a little bit. If you guys, just definitely listen. They have a great conversation for an hour. So here you go.
Yes, always a great show. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming today. Thanks for hanging out with us. And, they are the same person. I don't know about that, Kofefe Grins. I don't know. The one that's followed by Sidney Powell, he says that's his only account. So unless you got a direct message with him saying that they're both him, I don't know. I'll have to take that up on advisement, and somebody can prove it to me. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, we'll be back between 5 and 6 for another edition of Red Pill News, and then we've got 3 live shows coming up this weekend. Good luck. God bless. Take it easy, guys.